Wealth Management, we are your financial backbone, offering financial planning, wealth management, tax planning, and estate planning services. To schedule your free consultation, head to www.abundant-wealth.com. That's www.abundant-wealth.com. Abundant Wealth Management. Live, plan, triumph.
You're listening to Rangers Radio, your home for end-to-end coverage of the New York Rangers. With your hosts, Brendan Azoff, Zach Domino, and Steve Pappas. Blue Shirts fans, the puck drops now.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Rangers Radio. It's your boy Zook, also joined here by Steve, but Brendan isn't here tonight because he's at the Rangers game. But Mr. Pappas, how's it going?
I'm so sorry. Listen, I'm on my way to a Buffalo Sabres game, and I'm more excited for that than to watch any Ranger games at the moment.
Who do the Sabres got tonight? I was seeing some news about the Sabres that they're going to be active.
St. Louis. You get to see our old friend Pavel Buchnevich, the top-line center, which could be a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about in this episode. Because
you get to see our old friend Pavel Buchnevich, and Brendan at the game tonight, and me on TV will get to see our good friend and maybe soon nemesis Barclay Goodrow. I don't know if you saw, he had some stuff to say about how he didn't like how it was handled at the end. I don't know. I thought like Trouba was kind of getting dragged through the mud, and we just cut bait with the guy who was clearly getting overpaid, and he should thank us for what we even paid him for what he did. But what do you think about the Goodrow comments? Just an alpha male being an alpha male?
As soon as I heard it, I took him to score a goal tonight and Sharks money line, because there's not a chance that you're going to say that and not produce at some point, especially back in MSG. It's not like it's in San Jose. Like, there's no way he doesn't impact the game at some point tonight.
I saw a tweet that I know you would love because you're also a gambling man like me. The tweet was like, FanDuel and DraftKings executives everywhere are scrambling because they have no idea why half the platform is betting Barclay Goodrow to score a goal tonight.
Why 20 million people have put Barclay Goodrow anytime goal scorer tonight?
And I was like, it's just what happens when these guys return to the Garden. But that's a little bit about tonight. The Rangers got the Sharks coming in. And hopefully, as much as we're going to joke about how poor the Rangers are, we can absolutely shellac the Sharks, because that said man, Barclay Goodrow is actually on their first line, which is crazy to me. But the Rangers will probably Ranger, and we'll be complaining about this game next week, especially if this team looks how they have the last 8 games. And throw record out the window, because me and you have been the biggest proponent. Like, throw it out. Like, at the minimum, the Rangers got to make the playoffs. So we're not even talking about the record. But they're 4-4 over the last 8. But the first of the 8, which was the Panthers beating us 3-1, how they beat us last year and how teams that play that style have beaten us for years, really that game has caused this massive downswing where win or lose, and I'll even point out the Red Wings that we beat 4-0. That was just a lot of being quick and us putting our maybe 4 only opportunities in the back of the net. We've looked bad. Am I overreacting when I say that with a 4-4 record over the last 8? What are you thinking about this team?
No, and my biggest issue, like you mentioned, is the people that bring up the record, and it's like, oh, they're 9-3, so they can't be bad. It's like, critically think for 2 seconds. Critically think. Watch the game. Like, watch them play, and then tell me that they're not bad. Like, you beat Detroit 4-0, and from the surface 4-0 is great. Like, you beat a team that you should, but if you watch the game, 90% of that game was played in the Rangers D zone, and it was it was 37-year-old Jonathan Quick turning back the clock. Like, the best game they've played out of the last 8 was the last game against Winnipeg, and they lost. And they at least showed like something different than what we've seen in the previous 7, which was, we're not going to work for opportunities. We're going to get hemmed in our own zone. We still have the turnovers. Like, honest to God, I'm a huge Mika Zibanejad apologist. I will say it till I'm blue in the face. What you're getting out of him right now isn't good enough. But, outside of Mika, the Rangers should win that game against Winnipeg. Like, Mika, 3 turnovers that end up in the back of the net. You probably should win that game. And between him and Trouba -3 and Miller -4, it was 3 guys that really derailed an overall good game. And you look at guys like, Will Cooley and and Philip Hedl. These are third line guys that are producing at like top line players. And that's nice. And that's nice to have as a team. That means you're deep, but you also need to have your top guys going, and they don't have their top guys going. They have a nice record. They're winning games every now and then. The product itself, it's terrible. It's not like Stanley Cup quality, and it's November. It doesn't need to be at this point, but it's barely playoff quality at the moment. Like, you get blitzed by the Buffalo Sabres in your own building. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like,
and we were talking so highly about that game going into it that we were going to beat the shit out of them.
I know. I said they were going to lose. I said they were going to lose to Buffalo that night.
Yeah.
And if they win tonight, then my 2-2 record and the two teams that I picked to win and lose were from last week is what we got. But it was just the way that they were playing that game. Like, it was a Buffalo team that's young, hungry, and took advantage of what I said as a team that looks lazy, entitled. They don't want to work for their opportunities. It feels like they just expect good things to happen to them because they've been good in the past and they have this talent. And sometimes you get punched in the face, and that's exactly what happened. And when you look at that Red Wings game, I would have loved to see some response of work to get to the middle of the ice, take away the middle of the ice, take away rush chances, be real, just a pest on the puck. And they weren't. And they win 4-0. So you say, why are you complaining? The game itself was not a good game from a we talk about structure, we talk about playing the game the right way. They're not playing the game the right way. They're like, excuse me, they're accidental wins at the moment. And it's just it's for a team that has their only aspiration this year needs to be win the Stanley Cup or bust. It's so not good enough. And it's November, so whatever. But it's just so not good enough.
And another reason why the record people have to miss me with the Rangers can't be that bad because 9-4-1. Record is all relative. It only matters what your record is relative to the rest of the league. And right now, the Rangers are a wild card team. We're not even top 3 in the Metro for a team that won the President's Trophy last year. So totally miss me with the Rangers are a 9-4-1 team, because if there's 8 teams with a better record than you, it doesn't matter what your record is in a vacuum. So how does 9-4-1 look good when there's 3 other teams in your division that are 10-4-1, 11-4, 11-6-2 Devils team that seems to look like they're finding themselves again? The Rangers need to start winning some games. Going 4-4 over an 8-game stretch isn't going to be good enough for them. This isn't like last year where they started off hot. They really got to get on one of those runs, and they better get on it soon. And something that was really bothering me when I was watching, and it hit me for the first time when I was watching this the Jets-Rangers game, is even when Kakko scored, I was like, Like, we're not that, like, we haven't showed a fire. Like, the thing was, like, this game we actually showed a little bit of a fire, so that's what kept me in it a tiny bit. But based on the previous 7 and what you saw, like, there's no fire behind this team. And that was the thing when even the Rangers were bad over the last year or two in games. If they kept it close and they had a chance in the third period, we were the comeback kids, because it didn't matter, like, what was going on the rest of the game. At least it looked like we were into it. And a lot of that honestly has to do with Mika Zibanejad. Like, he's such a catalyst for this team, and specifically me, because he's probably, besides Igor and maybe Fox, my favorite Ranger of probably all time. Like, that's how much I love this guy. And I know I don't need to tell people how much you love him. You know how good he is, and you swear by him. But, like, he brings us nothing right now. Like, absolutely nothing. And it's not only a neutral, it's a legit negative. Like, he's losing puck possession for us. It looks like he can't chew his gum and walk at the same time. It's just almost, I'm more upset than mad, because you can just see this guy who looks like a shell of himself. And when that guy's out there, every other minute or 2 minutes off, and then you see him come back on the ice, it's tough for this team to get a rhythm or to get that spark. Because even if 2 lines, have some puck possession in the other team's zone, 93 comes on the ice and kind of ruins any momentum that we have. So the team as a whole, over the past 8 games specifically really hasn't shown much of a spark to me, but 93 specifically. And maybe what I'm saying about him, the rest of the team is feeling, right? He's a leader. He's your 1C. He's a guy that you look to in moments like this. And when you see what he's going through right now, maybe that's having a tidal wave effect for the rest of the team.
Yeah, talent doesn't just go away.
Yep.
Like his talent, the amount of talent he has doesn't just disappear in a flash for no reason. Because, there's reasons for this to happen. And whether it's, Laviolette says...
I didn't even see this.
I'm on my phone right now, so I don't see any of these
comments.
Sorry.
I'll read it to you. Someone said TJ said even when Kakko scored, no one seemed excited that he scored. They looked bored all game. And I didn't even see that comment when I just said that. But yeah, everyone was like, ho-hum.
Yeah, no, I said it before. I'll say it again. This team feels entitled. Like we've been to 2 Eastern Conference championships over the last 3 seasons. Good things are supposed to happen to us. We don't have to get to the front of the net. We don't have to get to the middle of the ice. We don't have to take away sticks. We don't have to do this because we're just good enough to win. And every now and then it works. And you see games where it works. But then there are times like Buffalo where you expect good things to happen to you just because you're more talented than the other team. And then you get your show run in your own barn. And it's embarrassing. It's an embarrassing thing to have happen to you. But going back to Mika, it's like the talent itself doesn't go away. And I know, Laviolette will tell you till you're blue in the face. Zibanejad will tell you till you're blue in the face. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. No way. I don't believe it. So
ever since you got hit in the back in the playoffs, I'm with you.
So what you're saying is the more likely option is your talent was just zapped from you in one off season in a year and a half. Every shred of talent you had was just zapped from you because nothing. There was no injury. There's no, I think, we spoke with Larry Brooks at the New York Post yesterday or 2 days ago, and he mentioned that it's a mental struggle for him right now. And I had mentioned that probably 2 or 3 weeks ago that if he is dealing with something off of the ice, then listen, that's more important than whatever's happening on the ice, something that needs to be addressed before, the play on the ice if something's wrong in that regard. But if it's a physical thing, if you're banged up, even if you're, mentally not into it because you're physically banged up, you can't be out. You're hurting your team by being out there. Like he said it last night when they asked him, or 2 nights ago, they asked him why he left the ice. He said he didn't feel right. Like there was something that wasn't right in him. And stay out. It's November. For the love of God, you don't have to push through it. I know the hockey culture is you have to be this tough guy that's out there all the time, but it's November 14th right now. You don't have to push. The only thing you're doing by pushing yourself in November when you're not at your best, when you're not at 100%, is you're hurting your team. Yeah. Because they win that game against Winnipeg if Mika Zibanejad isn't on the ice.
Oh, yeah, not even replaced if he's just not on the ice.
If they played with 11 forwards, they win that game.
100% of the time. Like, yeah, and I just want to mention his name as well because everyone's shitting on Mika. I'd love to see a little bit more from Trocheck also. If 72 is not on the ice, we got nothing. And he's unreal. When we talk about good contracts, man, to get him on what we got him at, if he was the guy in between 10 and 13, he would have unlimited points this season.
Play them together.
I agree with you. And screw the other three, the other 3 lines, just play to a stalemate and let those 3 run around because that's what you got at this point. But yeah, Trocheck's kind of being saved by how poor Mika's been. But you look, Trocheck has been given the honors of 2C because of what he did with 10 and 13 last year. So he should be the guy that we're looking to, but from an offensive standpoint, he also hasn't been there. So, what came into the season as a strength, how many times did we talk about Mika, Trocheck, Chytil, who can really deal with that depth down the line, especially with 2-way hockey players like those 3 have really become where the top 2 has disappeared. And Chytil, has he ascended, but he certainly can't do it by himself. He's not doing it by himself. You can't in hockey. It's a 4-line sport. So, we need more from 93, but let's get 16 going as well. And I know it has a little bit, to do with trying to spark Mika has taken away his wingers from Trocheck. But let's not act like Trocheck was absolutely lighting it on fire before that change. It's certainly not just a Mika problem. The amount we talk about him is also is almost an homage to him. It's expectations, and what we expect from Mika is just to be that guy. But we can go through a laundry list of guys on this team that just really aren't performing specifically the last 8 games like we're talking about.
Well, let's talk about the lines that were at practice yesterday. And, we had earlier in this season commended Laviolette for not panicking the second, one thing went wrong or somebody came back from an injury and then they get the shit kicked out of them by Florida and then throw the lines in the blender.
Yep.
And for the better part of 2.5 weeks, nobody's playing, with a consistent line. There's no cohesion between the lines. And lo and behold, you see today and you see yesterday that we're going back to the opening night lineups of Kreider, Smith, and Zibanejad, of Trocheck, Lafreniere, and Panarin, of Cooley, Hedel, Kakko, and then of a fourth line just with Jimmy Vesey, with Carrick and Edstrom. And you're going with the D pairs of Miller and Fox, maybe trying to spark Miller a little bit, Trouba, Schneider, and then they sent out Mancini. I think it's what, Jones and Roedel?
Yeah, they did send out. I don't know if Roedel is going to be in. Yeah, I guess he has to be. Yeah, because he was sent down. No,
Lindgren,
I think Roedel might be the
Lindgren.
extra. Yeah, I think I didn't see who the third pairing defenseman was. I saw the tweet before we went live that Mancini went down for Roedel. But yeah, Mancini needs to play.
Is it any shock that we're sitting here now 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks into this kind of failed experiment of throwing the lines in a blender, of not playing well, getting shit pumped basically every night that you play?
Yep.
And we're immediately reverting back to zero of this is what we started with, this is what worked, we're going to go back to it. It was almost like them saying, basically saying, all right, that shit didn't work, it's time to go back to what did work.
You almost got to give Mika props for how good offensively he's been in the past. When you look at who he's playing with on his wings, he even said it himself last year, Chris Kreider may be the worst creator in the entire NHL. I think he has 8 points this year and all of them are goals. Doesn't have a single assist. So Mika's going to get no help when he's playing with Riley Smith and Chris Kreider. Let's just all at least give him that credit that he's going to have to figure it out by himself. The problem then becomes you put him in between 10 and 13 and it kind of looks the same. So it's a little bit of both sides of it. But I'm not even sure what the proper move is at this point is what I'm trying to say. Because you put him in between Kreider and Riley Smith, who he's been with in the past, and that allows you to restore your other lines. You're really relying on him to spark himself. You put him in between your two best creating wings. It seems to almost be weighing them down. I'm at kind of a loss. We really just have to keep going into each game, hoping that Mika kind of figures it out. And there was one move where he went between the defenders against Winnipeg. It was deek, 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 deek with a loose puck that was on its side. And then he put a shot on Hellebuck that I'm is this going to be it? Because that was old Mika. And even that looked at 85%. But I don't know. What does it even take to spark someone like that?
I think it almost takes, and I don't want this to come out the wrong way. There's so many people out there that are running this guy through the mud, and it's sort of deserving for how bad he's played, but to a degree. The people that say bench him, trade him, buy him out, don't let him ever see the ice again, you're losers. Just quite frankly, you're losers. But it almost takes, and they do this a lot with younger players that are just new to the league, which obviously Mika's not. He's in his 14th season. Sit him for a game. Let him watch in the press box. Not a you suck, you're sitting, but a learning experience, because the game gets a lot slower when you're 200 feet up in the air and you're watching all this happen. I feel like a lot of Mika's issues are the game looks like it's moving too quickly for him. He doesn't, the decisions are not there. The reaction time to make plays are not there. If you let him sit up in the press box where the game is so much slower, it mentally can be able to kind of right you just a little bit. And you're all right, I do have enough time. I can make these plays in that little amount of time. It's not, everything doesn't have to move at 1,000 miles an hour. So I almost think letting him sit, and the same goes with Keandre Miller. Obviously, don't sit him in the same games.
Yeah.
Don't sit him in the same games because you need guys. But this is the time of year where you can get away with that. You can't start, benching guys in March and April when you're in a playoff push. November, early December, basically most of December. Once you get to the New Year's, when I really start to think that's, when you're pushing for the playoffs and your team needs to start playing more playoff hockey when you get to January, February, March, and April. But up until, end of October, now's your time to all right, let's give him a breather. He doesn't have to play 82 games this year. He doesn't have to play 80. He doesn't have to play 75. Let him, he's 31 years old, right? He's not old, but he's got a lot of miles on him. He's got 14 seasons in the NHL plus playoffs. He's played almost 1,000 games at the age of 31, which I don't have any computer resources in front of me to look that up. But
let me take a peek.
I can't imagine a lot of guys hit 1,000 games before 33 or 30, 32, 33. And Mika's close to that at 31. So, there's a lot of miles on a young body, but I think letting him sit and just seeing the game from a higher angle that's slower will be beneficial to him. I've been saying off camera that, Pastrnak and Marchand in Boston have been benched multiple times this year. Montgomery called out Pastrnak during the playoffs last year. It feels like, I don't want to say he's not holding players accountable because we're not in the locker room. We have no idea what's going on behind closed doors. But, maybe something like that. Everything can't be, he's, I'm not going to talk on Mika. I'm not going to do this. Sometimes, be the asshole. Be the guy that puts it in the media. No, we need this guy to be good. Right now, he's not good. He's not playing well. We need him to be him for us to be good. And, we don't know how Mika's able to be coached. We don't know how any of these guys are able to be coached. That's why it works with Marchand and Pastrnak, because we know they're shitheads and they can take that. But, if you don't trust the coach, if you don't trust the team, this almost feels like I'm like, I don't know. I'm just so ranting at the moment, but trying to make sure in my head, I'm like, all right, everything's still going to be okay. If you don't trust the coach, if you don't trust the players that we've seen play for the last 4 years in this core, if you don't trust the goaltender who's been a little shaky recently, but if you don't trust him, if you don't trust the backups, if you don't trust management, that one I'll give you. Management's a little iffy. But if you don't trust them, then what are you doing here? Because this has been a team that has sort of defied logic and odds every couple of years, where they don't look like a team that should be good that is, or look like a team that should be good and aren't. And right now is the time for them to kind of right the ship. You got a game against San Jose that you should beat the shit out of them. You
shellac them.
You should beat the shit
These guys
out of them.
are fake.
9 times out of 8. You should beat them every time. But we know what this organization has done in the past. We know what the Rangers do against teams that aren't good. They play down to their competition. They don't put teams away. I'd be very shocked if this game wasn't 6-5. I'd be very shocked if this wasn't a 6-5 game. I took the over. I took Gaudreau to score, and I took the Sharks to win. I can't. And wait for Celebrini. Wait for Celebrini to go nuts.
The Rangers need some sort of cathartic experience tonight, where hopefully they can put the beat down on just a team that they out talent by so much. But again, as we always say, that matters none. And the guys are probably going to rally around Barclay Goodrow a little bit. They don't really have much else to rally around that team, so they'll probably try something like that. But in very Rangers fashion, like you're saying, with them defying the odds, this ends with Mika Zibanejad scoring an overtime goal in Game 7, right, of the first round, because we just know how these things tend to go. Exactly, right? Exactly. So again, I don't even know what to say or do, because he's just gonna we got nothing but hope that he figures it out. We're not gonna find a 1C anywhere else, and he's certainly not going anywhere. There's only so many ways you can mix and match basically a top 9 together that Laviolette has already tried. But yeah, he's certainly got to figure it out, because it's not a box score thing. It's just a watch him play. There's something going on with him mentally, physically. One may be causing the other, and maybe a little bit of both. But another name you brought up in Keandre Miller, he can't go unscathed either. He's been awful. And I wrote in the group, I forget if it was last game or the game before, I almost wish he wasn't so physically gifted, because way too often does he just depend on that. No position, not moving, and just try and reach and stick check, and the guy just goes right around him because he's in the NHL, and all these guys are professional and fast. But he's certainly a guy that would get real value from sitting 200 feet in the sky and just being able to slow down. I agree. Mika's got to do it more even just of a reset to get him off the ice and to just allow him to take a breath. But Miller could actually learn something because he's just way out of place. Even that goal that Nemestikov scored, he slid him, took himself way out of the play. Like, I'm trying to make a good play, but man, oh man, he's totally lost right now. And it could be a little bit of he's been put through the blender with defensive pair mates and being put with a lot of guys that play very different styles. So maybe he's a little lost, but put him with someone and leave him there for a little bit if you're not going to put him in the sky, because when it comes to guys that we expected to not just do what they did last year, but take the next step, he was someone that in order to repeat what they did last year and win the President's Trophy, he really needed to be that guy, and he certainly has not been that at all recently.
We have, and I've said this so many times, and I'll say it every show if I have to, so many simple-minded, mouth-breathing idiots that root for this team, at least that are online. And I don't think they fully understand like the aspect of like what a benching does. It's not like you stink, you go sit on bench, you never play.
It's a reset.
It's a reset. It is you got to hope that these guys figure it out. You can't just sit here, dog them, and and have no hope for these guys. Then what are you doing? Go root for another team. Yeah. Go be a Jets fan. Go be an Avs fan. Just go root for the sport. You're a loser. But you can't not root for these guys to find it. And one of the best ways to find it is just a mental reset, sit 200 feet up in the air, watch the game, and it, pray to God it works, because right now, despite the record, they look terrible. And that is not a fun group of games that they're going to be playing coming up.
No, it's not a fun group of games. And I know we got to cut it in a few minutes because you're going to see the Sabres play, but I want to end how we've been ending recently and go through the games until our next episode, which
are we doing Sunday?
Yeah, but let's pretend that we can cover these three games. We can cover the Sharks, then at Seattle and at Vancouver. Damn, looking at this schedule, tonight's game is really important because it's going to be a catalyst for this run. I'm going to say 2-1-1.
Listen, the Western Conference trip last year, I know the Western Canada trip specifically was the one that sparked them. They went on that 5-0 stretch. They swept the road trip for the first time in franchise history.
Yep.
You're sitting at a time right now where you're about to play 1, 2, 3, 4 on the road.
Yep.
Against the Western Conference. If you can go 3-1 on top of a win against San Jose tonight, obviously that's 4-1. That's a good it's a good couple of games. You just can't go in there and win one. You can't go in there. Is this the
dad's trip?
Usually.
Yeah.
But you can't go in there, lose tonight, and then win one on the West trip and go, 1-4 or even 2-3. Like that doesn't move the needle. That doesn't spark anything. That just kind of ho-hum. We stay where we are. Listen, we talked about it last week. I think they beat San Jose. They should beat San Jose. I don't know if I think they beat them, but they should beat San Jose.
I'm nervous.
And then Seattle, I'll give them a win at Seattle and then a loss in Vancouver. I know Vancouver's got some goaltender issues. They're not very good on home ice at keeping the puck out of their own net. They're best in the league on the road at keeping the puck out and worst in the league at home at keeping the puck out. So that's fun. Let's go 2-0-1. Let's go 2-0-1.
You say 2-0-1. I say 2-1. We both have them winning tonight. I'm very nervous that even if we win, we don't look great. I just think, in a weird way, I think San Jose is like a bad matchup from standpoint.
I don't give a shit. Right now, just win the game, and we'll assess it after the fact.
I think even though talent doesn't win, San Jose may be the one matchup where talent alone can take you on, because I just think San Jose is going to come out hungry and but they just stink. They're awful. So I think tonight we're going to win, then split on the road and hope that is a catalyst where, I'd like to, let's say 2-1-0, and then I'll just comment on the rest of the road trip. Let's try and finish the road trip 3-1-1. 3-1-1 if we're back in St. Louis at the Garden on Monday with a 3-1-1 record and looking like a 3-1-1 team, during that stretch, I think we can all take a deep breath like we're asking some of these players to do.
The Sharks stink. They're awful. Give me
So
Sharks 5-2 tonight.
5-2, and it should be we look dominating for parts of the game 5-2.
What happened to Carolina last night against Utah, where they outshot them 50 to 18 or whatever and lost 4-1? That's the most Carolina thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that is very Carolina. Transcend all stats and analytics, but the only thing that matters is the scoreboard and to lose. That is very Carolina. But
getting 49 of your 50 shots saved is not a fun night.
I know you got to go, so I'm happy we got in those records. Like you said, we may be streaming Sunday just to do a little catch up and talk about the Rangers because there is so much to talk about. But thanks to everyone who I see we got 124. Thanks to everyone that tuned in.
I can't see anything.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the viewer count at
Dude,
all.
I don't look at. I'm so bad. That's why we need Brendan. I don't look at comments or any. Like I'm so bad.
I can't
multitask.
I'm like, I could be talking to myself for all I know, and either way, whatever I say still rings true. But thank you guys for
thanks for tuning in. Brendan, after the game, either tonight or tomorrow morning, will pull it and put it on the podcast. So if you're listening to this after the fact, which I know a lot of people are because I get those, that's great. Love talking Rangers with people. So whenever you're listening to this, we thank you very much. We'll definitely be here next week. We'll probably be here Sunday. But from me and Steve, we appreciate you all coming out tonight, and let's beat the Sharks, baby.
See you guys.